A strength a day, be your best every day. Hi, I'm Adimus, founder and director of Strength Optimizer. I aim to help you develop and amplify your strengths so that you can be your best selves and enable greatness in others. Have you ever wondered why you do what you do, why you like certain things, and why you're better at some things than others? And there is a reason. The reason is your strengths. Your strengths are your natural talents, which are developed through years of intentional practice. When you're using your strengths, you're performing at your best. You also feel competent, engaged, energized, and authentic. In this CliftonStrengths series, you will meet 34 individuals with different kinds of backgrounds, professions, and all walks of life. But they all share a common theme. That is, they have been actively and intentionally using their strengths to achieve success, enhance well-being, and enable greatness in others. And here are their CliftonStrengths stories. Thank you. Hi, I'm Adimus, founder and director of Strength Optimizer. Thank you for watching Strength Optimizer, the CliftonStrengths series. Today, we have Maria Ivankovic joining us. Maria is a passionate, and yes, hi to you. She's a passionate and people-centric professional with a background in human resources and organizational effectiveness. She loves to coach leaders using their superpowers to bring the best out in their team members. Over the last 13 years, Maria has predominantly worked as a HR business partner in the corporate space for medium to large enterprises across a number of industries, including finance and investment management, insurance, pharma, education, and most recently in gaming and entertainment. She tries on understanding what motivates people and tailors her approach accordingly. Maria brings social depth to all her interactions and is a self-described empath. Currently, she's on parental leave, congratulations, and nurturing little moments with her 10-month-old baby boy. I'm so grateful that you can join us today, Maria. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Adimus. Thank you so much for inviting me along for this. I am very excited.
Yes, me too. And of course, thank you for taking your time to share with us one of your top CliftonStrengths. So, Maria, I know that you have spent over a decade working in a HR or what we call human resources area. So, tell us, what do you love most about your work?
Look, I'm really passionate about understanding what motivates and drives people to achieve, what gets them out of bed in the morning. And I suppose I'm fortunate enough to work in a role where I can influence how we bring out the best in people. And I do this predominantly through coaching of leaders. And so, if I think about a work context, my favorite moments are when I see people light up, when they become really engaged and energized. And sometimes it can be really simple things like listening to them when they're really vulnerable. Other times it's bigger things like supporting them to achieve career goals or taking them through a promotion and increases. So those are the things I love. Now, HR, of course, isn't always about positive moments. And certainly throughout my career, I've played a significant role in also supporting leaders through difficult conversations that they had to have with their team members, be it performance related conversations or, sometimes even termination conversations. And so I think the key thing for me is when this can be done in a way that supports, respects and honors the individual, I feel like, my work is done. And so really it's about helping leaders recognize and embrace their own strengths. And this then gives them the confidence to deliver these messages, positive or otherwise, in an honest and meaningful way. And I think that's where you really can create an impact.
Absolutely. And I guess that, a couple of times you use the words influence or impact or even imparting. And I think that certainly is clearly what I see strongly in you. Very pretty much people-oriented, people persons, And you're right,
Absolutely.
sometimes when we talk about HR, it can, related to some sort of policies or process or protocols, but at the heart of HR, again, I'm not the expert in HR, but I like to believe at the heart of HR is about people. In
Absolutely.
addition to the process and policy and protocols. And in fact, I have seen the shift and movement from changing the word from HR to people and culture, which perhaps speaks a little bit more in terms of the important and the critical roles that you and many other HR business partners playing in helping leaders and people to really bring out the best in them through their strengths.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've put it quite succinctly.
Thank you. Talking about strengths, so tell us, what is your top Clifton strengths, Maria?
Sure. So my top strengths is individualization. It's a strength that I've done the CliftonStrengths Finder many times now, and it's always comes out on top. It's always my number one. So it's a strength that I would say is pretty embedded in me. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sure that for our listeners out there, some of them may not necessarily understand what individualization is. So according to CliftonStrengths, people who are exceptionally talented in the strengths of individualizations, they are intrigued with the unique qualities of each person. They also have a gift of figuring out on how different people can work together productively. So to what extent do you agree with this definition?
I'd say wholeheartedly. If I had to simplify it or put it simply, I would say it's really about having an intuitive insight into people. That's what individualization is for me. If I may share a story with you, when I was much younger, I was still in school, I was a teenager, and my parents were looking to build a house. And one evening I heard them openly discuss some of the challenges, what they were nervous about when it comes to, taking on such a big project like building a new house. I interjected myself into this conversation and confidently announced, look, guys, I don't think this will be difficult at all. Dad, you are incredibly artistic. So please, you focus on the artistic side, the interiors, the architecture, the look and the feel of the house. Mum, you're a born mathematician. So crunch the numbers, make sure we get the best deal, stay on budget. And well, me, I'm good at people. So I'll rally the builders and I'll make sure we stay on task. Now, this was, I was a teenager. I knew nothing about, strengths at this point. So it just goes to show this is a very raw version of individualization coming out, in a teenager.
Yeah. So wonderful. and it's so appropriate because I guess that sometimes when we use the word strengths and immediately we think about it's certain kind of skills that I may have or don't have, but sometimes it also can be an extension of who we are, especially if something that's embedded in us. And you talk about, you've done this strengths assessment for a few times. The individualization seems to be one of your top, so it almost become that perhaps part of your core identity, and it has helped you obviously to accomplish many things. I'm just curious to find out, so how does individualization strength actually showed up at your work?
Yeah, sure. So, look, I'd probably say, the modern world of work is really about tailoring. We've moved away somewhat from this notion of standardization. I think customers today, they want to see things personalized. They want to see things tailored. They're seeking uniqueness. And I think businesses should respond to this. In HR, you mentioned it earlier. In HR, we have policies, procedures, practices, checklists, typical HR's calling me to tick a box, we've got this. And I think there is a place for that because that allows obviously fair and equitable treatment of employees. But I think how it shows up for me in my role as a HR business partner, I have the ability to find nuance in how these policies are applied and actually tailor to the needs of both the leaders and the team members. I call this sort of the magic of breaking the script, because sometimes that's what we need to do to get the best out in people. It's about getting to know and understand the people that make up the organization. You know, what motivates them, what makes them tick, and then how do we take our approach and tailor it to ensure that there is an optimal employee experience.
Yeah.
I think that's...
So when you're talking about tailoring, I'm just thinking that, you know, as you talk about, let's say, for example, you're working within a specific protocols or HR practices. You have, let's say, you know, 5 different leaders plus employees. When you talk about tailoring, is it more of trying to interpret the policy differently? Or...
Yeah, I can see you're going,
I'm not sure whether I want to go that far, but I'm just dropping it in here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as I said before, you know, policies exist for a reason. We want to make sure there is treatment that is equitable across the board. That said, sometimes the needs of the employee can be quite different and can be quite unique, something we perhaps we haven't come across before. You know, policies don't necessarily answer all the questions. If we think about our laws, sometimes, you know, the world happens and the law is trying to catch up. In HR, these things happen as well, and sometimes you're in situations where, you know, new opportunities are coming up and new needs that employees are having are coming up, and so it's really about how do you actually answer to those needs in a way that obviously you're still treating, you know, there's still fairness across the board, but the employee is having an optimal experience, and it's suiting their needs. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And once again, I can't help but think about this whole word empathy. You know, listening and understanding the employee needs, their circumstances, their situations, and the whole process of having the conversation, as you mentioned earlier, is to optimize their experience. After all, we always say that, you know, the people is the biggest asset for any organizations, for any companies. So if people are having the optimal experience, then naturally speaking, the byproduct will be a higher level of engagement, higher level of loyalty, you know, higher level of energy and productivity, and all these so-called wonderful positive KPIs that we all after look for as well.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So apart from the work situations, can you tell us, like, how has individualization strengths helped you succeeded in the past?
Look, I think the one that comes to mind, and it's a simple example, but I think it's one that is quite powerful. You know, I've talked about sort of tailoring my approach. In my most recent organisation, I partnered with the finance team. So the finance team were one of my biggest or core stakeholders. And I'm going to generalize here, which is not something I do often. Finance people tend to be quite sort of structured and logical. Right? Big generalization, I'm the first to admit that. But on the whole, kind of, they tend to be quite logical. I, on the other hand, would probably describe myself as quite innovative and a bit of a, you know, blue sky thinker. Leaders would approach me with challenges or problem to solve. We would get into a meeting and essentially brainstorm ideas around how to solve this, and we'd come up with many things that were absolutely fantastic. I would walk out of those meetings feeling energized and feeling like, you know, there's a path forward. What I quickly realized quite early on in partnering with finance is that the leaders were walking out of the meeting with sort of less confidence, and they were walking out of these meetings kind of probably thinking, I'm not quite sure what I need to do first. And so my ability to sort of recognize that and tailor my approach, which was, okay, sure, we can get into a meeting, we can have these kind of really, you know, deep conversations that unpick the problem and come up with you know, a way forward and solutions. But once we've done the kind of blue sky thinking and the brainstorming, we actually need to sit down and map out something that's quite structured and quite logical.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm leaving the leaders with kind of almost like a path. Here's step 1, 2, 3 of what needs to happen next. Who's accountable? By when is it going to get done? Those sorts of things that are quite, logical and structured. And I quickly found a shift in both the confidence of the leaders, but more importantly, the outcomes that I was seeing at the end. And part of that was just me kind of understanding that what did the leader need? What did they need? And actually understanding where they were coming from, and tailoring my approach that way.
Yeah. Wonderful example, and that's so powerful, because as cliche as it sounds, I think that a lot of people, including myself, we always say that one size doesn't fit all. And I think that when it comes to working with people, come to working in a workplace with so much diversities, your ability to be able to spot that unique ability or quality in each leader, each person, can become so critical, again, either by shifting perspective, or paradigm, or changing practices, or dropping the aha moments. It's a lot empowering that you're doing there, and throughout your works as a HR business partner in the last decade or so. So wonderful.
Oh, and of course, there's the, I managed to build a house with, my 2 parents who were complete amateurs, and I was a teenager. So I think we did okay.
I think all the tradies looking at, who is this teenage girl that seems to be in charge and confidence, but yeah, we like her. Okay. In addition to the professional level, how are you using your individualization strength in your daily life, especially right now? I know you're a mom, you have a 10 years old boy. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I must admit, this is my favorite question. So thank you for asking it. I am currently on parental leave, and I've got a beautiful 10-month-old baby boy. His name's Noah. I think what I'm enjoying most, and this talks to sort of how I bring this strength to life every day, is I'm getting to know Noah's uniqueness. It's how he's developing and the individual he's becoming, right? And this, puts individualization to great use. I'm constantly observing him and kind of working out, okay, well, what does this mean about him? What does this tell me about him? To give you a really simple example, I found he's a very cautious baby. Okay. So naturally, he's quite risk averse. If you give him something to try to eat, he won't eat it unless he's seen you put it in your mouth first. Only then will he put it in his mouth. Or, if there's something new that he hasn't seen, he will never touch it without kind of looking at you and what your face shows him. And then, he knows to touch it. So I can already tell, he's 10 months old, but I can already tell he's incredibly risk averse. He's never pulled out cords. He's never, done any of that sort of other stuff. And so for me, I think it's learning to sort of adapt my parenting style to actually encourage him to play and experiment, to bring a balance to that sort of risk aversion. And only through sort of understanding who he is and learning about him and seeing him every day, can I then make sure I'm actually honoring his uniqueness and bringing out hopefully the best in him. So that's been really exciting. So someone who has individualization, to actually watch a child grow up and see that is just very, very exciting.
I'm sure this requires a lot of acute observations, and perhaps to a large degree suspend the judgment as well, simply just to observe curiously, openly. And I like also the way you talk about, yes, on one hand you're trying to, I guess that, I'm not sure whether this is the right word to use, like stretch Noah's risk taking kind of ability, but yet at the same time also honoring. I like the word honoring in terms of who he is, but where he's at now as well, understanding 10 months, by the time he turned 2, 5, 10, I'm sure there's a lot of more observations, and then lots of revisions and individualizations on top of that too.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to every little moment.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm afraid that that's all the time that we have for today. So once again, thank you for joining us, Maria. And thank you for watching. I'm Dimas from Strong Optimizers. We're here to bring out the best in you by optimizing your strengths. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye to you.
Bye.
Bye.